Warning, this episode contains strong language or mature themes. Parental discretion is advised.
Yay, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Alright.
Welcome to This Podcast is Uncalled For.
What's uncalled for about it?
Well, you can't tell anybody this.
I'm listening.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Don't be ashamed to be a supporter of Barack Obama for the next 2 years or for the rest of your lives, because you should be proud of what you've done.
I worship Cthulhu just for the free beer.
But you didn't even give a chance for a wild card spot.
Well, the name of this podcast is Stuff Uncalled For?
This podcast is uncalled.
Podcast, all right.
Yeah, that was the most ridiculous ending to that game that I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up.
We're looking at each other in the eye. We're not going to say anything derogatory to the other person. And, of course, neither of us is drunk.
Another thing that differentiates Mormonism from Catholicism is I don't hear Pope Francis saying that he's a prophet, seer, and revelator.
See, this is a disgrace.
Hey, we're getting somewhere.
And now, your host for this podcast, Mike Chernefsky.
Fuji!
Welcome to the podcast. So today we're going to do top 10 movies. We've done top 10 board games. We've done top 10 podcasts. It makes sense with me being a filmmaker to do top 10 movies. Nothing I worked on is going to be on this list. These are all feature films, and most of them you probably have heard of. So here we go. We're going to start with number 1 on my list, which is Clerks, written and directed by Kevin Smith. This is Smith's first film. Shot entirely in black and white, and is basically a day in the life of a couple of guys named Dante and Randall, who work at a convenience store and the video store next door, respectively, and introduces us to the characters of Jay and Silent Bob. Silent Bob, of course, is played by Kevin Smith. What's notable about this movie is it's very dialogue heavy. Was shot with a budget of about $25,000, which provides a perfect template for those of us who work with tiny budgets. It also has references to hockey. In fact, there's an entire scene in the movie. They closed the store just to play hockey on the rooftop. And of course, one of the great running gags that you'll find through Kevin Smith's work is the number 37. Number 2 on my list is Fight Club, which, along with Clerks, I always maintain is among my favorite movies. Directed by David Fincher, stars Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. It's about a couple of guys who go full anti-consumerism and start underground fight clubs. And there is a twist ending. You've probably seen it, the 8 rules of Fight Club, which I know from memory. The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. The third rule of Fight Club, if someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out, the fight is over. The fourth rule, only 2 guys to a fight. Fifth rule, 1 fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the 8th and final rule, if this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight. Number 3 on my list is In Bruges, written and directed by Martin McDonagh. Stars Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Ray Fiennes. Starts off pretty comedic, then, but it's pretty much dramatic through and through. About a couple of hitmen who are sent by their boss to the village of Bruges in Belgium to do sightseeing and everything. Well, it turns out one of them, the Colin Farrell character, had accidentally killed a kid on his first hit job, and he was being sent there to die. The real comedy, if you're really into profanity, is there's a lot of cussing in this word. Almost every other word of Ray Fiennes' character's mouth is fucking. Number 4 on my list, Cool Runnings. The story of the Jamaican bobsled team. Director was John Turteltaub, and starred the late, great John Candy as the coach of this Jamaican bobsled team. It's a really fun movie. It's a very kid-friendly movie. And for my West friends out there that are hopefully listening to this, it's from this movie that I got our signature greeting for each other of respect. So number 5 on my list is going to be Serenity, written and directed by Joss Whedon, and stars the whole Firefly cast. We all know who they are by now, Nathan Fillion most nobly. It is basically the continuation of Firefly, and full disclosure, I saw Firefly when it was on TV during the first and only run, actually, because it only lasted one season. For those of you who've never seen Firefly, it's about a ragtag crew that goes about the galaxy doing jobs, some questionable in origin, just to make ends meet. It's sort of a sci-fi western mesh, and everyone cusses in Chinese. So Serenity was a nice way to tie all the loose ends from the series together, because Fox really fucks that series up by airing everything out of order. Number 6 on my list is probably going to be the oldest movie on this list. Date back to 1954. This would be The Caine Mutiny. Directed by Edward Dmytryk and starred Humphrey Bogart, Jose Ferrer, Van Johnson, Fred McMurray. It's a World War II story about a ship, the USS Caine. Humphrey Bogart's character, Captain Queeg, takes command, goes a little crazy, and all the officers are noticing this and decide in the middle of a bad storm to mutiny. Definitely worth taking a watch. I actually had to watch this in high school in ROTC class. And it's not going to be on this list, but I would also suggest Mr. Roberts. Number 7 on my list is going to be Act Naturally, directed by J.P. Riley, and is a naturist-themed movie about two sisters who don't know each other, but their father had just died and they have to go out to California to take inventory of his property and everything. It turns out the man ran a naturist resort, and the bulk of the movie is them not only learning about each other, but learning about all the people that make up this whole naked community and everything. Definitely worth checking out, and going hand in hand with the couple of episodes we've already done on the subject of naturism. Definitely worth giving a watch. So number 8 on my list is going to be Throw Momma from the Train. Danny DeVito directed it, and he's also one of the stars along with Billy Crystal. About a couple of guys that are down on their luck that just want someone in their lives dead. All right. In the case of Billy Crystal's character, it's his ex-wife, played by a pre-Captain Janeway, Kate Mulgrew. And in the case of DeVito, it's his mother. Quite an insane little movie, but it's just worth it for the comedic value. And to see Anne Ramsey at work as the titular mother. Evan! 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 Give me a student with some ice in it. He tried to kill me. I said he tried to kill me. So number 9 on the list is the only documentary on this list, and that is The Aristocrats. Directed by Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller, and Paul Provenza. Is just a bunch of comedians talking about or telling variations of the aristocrat joke. I know that the Bob Saget's version of the joke received a lot of attention and is probably the most offensive version told. I like Gilbert Gottfried's take on it. For those of you not familiar with the aristocrat joke, I'm going to have my friend Joe Broflovsky tell the joke to you real quick. But I'm going to give you a second to get any kids out of the room. Hey folks, what's up? My name is Joe Broflovsky. I'm a talent agent based out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I have this story to tell you. So one day, this guy walks into my office and says, I have a family act to pitch to you. It's me, my wife, the son, the daughter, and the dog. So first thing we do, we turn on some music, we all strip down, I start fucking my wife, and the son starts pissing all over the floor, and I start fisting my daughter, and the dog starts fucking me up the ass. And then my son brings out Bill O'Reilly, and for every time O'Reilly says, fuck it, we'll do it live, I start fucking and sucking my daughter in the ass and everything. And then we bring in the San Francisco 49ers, and they all take a giant group shit. And we start swimming in the shit and covering ourselves in the shit like we're in the mud baths and everything. And then O'Reilly starts throwing us loofahs and falafels, and we all start rubbing them ourselves and everything. And then the son and I, we start jacking it like we're in San Diego and all this. And then at this point, I'm like, oh, stop, you sick, twisted fuck. So first of all, no self-respecting agent is ever going to sign you with an act like that. And then if they were to sign you with an act like that, What the fuck do you call yourselves? And then the father pauses for a second and says, well, we call it the Aristocrats. And the last movie on this list, I could go on and on for days talking about my favorite movies, but we have to pick 10, so we're going to end it here. It's a movie that's already been referenced a couple of times on this podcast, and is probably my favorites of the Star Trek movies. That would be Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Directed by Mr. Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy. So this movie, what happens is that there's an alien probe that shuts down all electronics on the way to Earth, where it's trying to communicate with humpback whales for some reason. Humpbacks by this point being sadly extinct. So Kirk and company, they had stolen a Klingon ship in Star Trek 3 and are still flying in this ship, so they decide, we're going to go back in time to mid-80s San Francisco and try to find us some humpback whales. And the culture shock that these people experience is quite interesting. I said the first thing that we see when they arrive in San Francisco, they almost get run over. The cabbie yells out, so why don't you watch your gun, dumbass? And Captain Kirk replies, well, double dumbass on you. And stuff like that. And of course, the Vulcan nerve pinch on that punk that was playing punk rock really loud on the bus and flipping Kirk and Spock off. And that led to the whole, your use of language has altered since our arrival, Captain. Is laced with, shall I say, more colorful metaphors like double dumbass on you and so forth. And Kirk's observation, well, no one will listen to you unless you swear every other word. So definitely check that one out. So check all the Star Trek movies, with the exception of JJ Trek, because that's garbage. So that will do it. That is my top 10 movies. I strongly suggest checking each and every one of those movies out. And of course, support the podcast. Tell your friends about the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. We're on all sorts of platforms that there's really no excuse to not subscribe to the podcast. Check out our blog, which is uncalledfor.home.blog. If you feel up to it, please donate on Patreon. My Patreon is patreon.com/Mike Chernevsky, all one word, MikeCcerniewski. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. This podcast is Uncalled For. It is hosted, produced, and edited by myself, Mike Chernevsky. Opening music is Fantasia by Kevin MacLeod and Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Outro music is Sand Dweller by Mitre. Licensed under Creative Commons, Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share Alike license. Additional music included Morocco Sting by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And Secret of Tiki Island by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license.
If you would like to support this podcast or any of Mike's other creative endeavors, please consider making a donation at patreon.com/Mike Chernevsky. That's MikeCzernewski. Donations over $5 will receive a special thanks on a future podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.